Begin the lectionary study for October the 17th, 2021 with the Old Testament, Job, chapter 38, 1 through 7, 34 through 38. Now, if you remember, chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Job set up Job's suffering, the loss of his children, the loss of his property, and then finally the loss of his health, where he sits in ashes. Then from chapter 3 all the way to 37, Job responds to different quote-unquote friends. And they present the typical arguments. Job must have done something wrong in order for God to punish Job. Even though Job doesn't think Job did anything wrong, maybe it was something that Job didn't do that could have possibly incurred God's wrath. Maybe the fact that Job thinks Job is innocent and didn't do anything wrong indicates the sin of arrogance, and then therefore Job is guilty because he doesn't think he did anything wrong, period. There's a number of arguments there, all with the assumption that God acts contractually. If we do good things, God gives us good things. If we do bad things, God gives us bad things. If we suffer bad things, then we must have done something wrong. Job responds in various ways to this argument. And last week we talked about Job asking for a mediator between him and God. If there's a transactional arrangement here, then Job will change the way he's behaving if he can just understand what he's done wrong or what may have gone wrong. However, the point of Job is not an issue of transaction. It's an issue of faith, and the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. That is, that God is God and we are not. That God's ways are not our ways. That we live in a world of constant change where there is both creation and destruction constantly occurring, birth and death. As Ecclesiastes says, there's a season for all things. And that sometimes we get caught up in this natural cycle of things. Sometimes we lose spouses. Sometimes we are diagnosed with diseases. Sometimes we have unexpected news that a new baby is on the way. Sometimes we get bonuses and money from places we never thought, just in time we need it. God goes over and says, Job, if you think this is a transactional relationship, if you think that you can talk to me one-on-one, then answer me these questions. And he poses these questions in chapter 38. And of course, Job can't answer any of these questions. When we diagnose the questions today, we may say, hey, wait a minute, science can answer some of these. But can science truly answer some of the heart of what's at these questions? And I think it all goes down to verse 2. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? No matter how much science, no matter how much internet, no matter how much technology or advancements we make, there is a limit to human knowledge. We are not omniscient. We don't know everything. Sometimes we don't even know our own hearts. As Paul says, I don't know why I don't do the things I want to do, and the things I don't want to do are the things that I do. Sometimes we are our own greatest mystery. And yet, God sees all and knows all of our hearts. He sees how actions are woven together. If we think of it a different way, I think of the movie The Prince of Egypt with that song that we are all threads woven into a great tapestry. God sees the entire tapestry. All we can see is the weave that our life has taken and looks like it may take. And sometimes that weave brings us close to others. Sometimes it pulls us apart. Sometimes their weave ends and our weave continues. Sometimes our weave ends and theirs continue. Sometimes the weave is smooth, but sometimes the weave is frayed and tangled and doesn't make any sense. And yet, if we look back on those times, it gives our life texture. It creates perseverance and endurance, drives our faith deeper, helps us to have compassion for those that we might not understand otherwise. God sees the entire weave. Basically, God says to Job, if you too can see my entire plan, if you can see the whole design of creation and humanity and how everything weaves together, if you can do this, then I can talk to you about how your weave is going and why you're going through these things and how it shapes the rest of the picture. But otherwise, how can I speak to you about the weave if I am the weaver and you're the thread? If God is the potter and we are the clay? It's like trying to explain to the animal why it has to go to the vet. It hurts, it wants to go in a corner, and yet we know that for the benefit of the animal, it needs to go to the vet. It doesn't understand why it has to get in a car. It doesn't understand why it has to get in the cage. It doesn't understand because it doesn't see a larger picture. Job suffers. That is real. But trying to justify the suffering, or trying to explain away the suffering, or to try to determine if it's Job's fault or God's fault, does nothing to alleviate the suffering. God is with Job. God is with us. Suffering happens. If we worry that suffering may occur, it doesn't stop it from happening. If we try to explain away the suffering in the middle of it, it doesn't shorten our grief or our sense of loss. In fact, sometimes we can go down the rabbit hole, as the friends did with Job. But God is God, and God is with us. And in the end, even though, as it says in Corinthians, we see in a mirror dimly now, we shall fully know as we are fully known. For we shall see God face to face.